The morning sun spilled through the tall windows of Ridgewood High School, painting golden streaks across rows of wooden desks. The classroom buzzed softly with chatter, papers rustling, pens tapping, and laughter echoing from the back. It was just another Tuesday, until Mr. Harris walked in. He was known for his sharp suits, sharper tongue, and an attitude that made every student sit up straight the moment his shoes clicked against the floor. His lessons were precise, his tone firm, and his patience, especially toward certain students, almost non-existent. At the front row sat Jamal Williams, a 17-year-old black student with ambition far bigger than his surroundings. His backpack was worn, but his notebooks were always filled with notes and underlines, dreams scribbled between the margins. Today, he stood ready for his history presentation, a detailed analysis of the civil rights movement and its modern impact. When Mr. Harris called his name, Jamal took a deep breath and walked to the front. He'd spent nights perfecting every slide, every word. His mother had stayed up with him, listening to his practice runs, smiling proudly. This wasn't just a grade. This was his chance to prove himself. "Good morning, class," Jamal began, his voice calm but steady. "Today, I'll be talking about how equality isn't just history. It's still something we're fighting for today." The projector hummed to life, casting his slides across the whiteboard. For a moment, there was silence. Real attention. But not from Mr. Harris. The teacher leaned back, arms crossed, a smirk forming. "Interesting topic, Jamal," he interrupted. "But don't you think you're overreaching? This is high school, not a courtroom." A few students exchanged awkward glances. Jamal froze for a second, then continued politely. "I believe understanding the past helps us." Mr. Harris cut him off again, his tone sharp. Yes, we all know the textbook answer. But where did you get these ideas? Online? Or maybe you just copied someone's work?" Laughter rippled across the room. Jamal's throat tightened. "No, sir. I did this myself." "Really?" Mr. Harris raised an eyebrow, walking closer. "Because this sounds a bit too sophisticated for you." The words hung in the air, heavy, humiliating. Jamal's face went pale, but he didn't respond. He'd been through this before, subtle comments that sliced deep but left no proof. Today, though, it felt worse, because everyone was watching. From the back, his friend Maya, a quiet, tech-savvy girl, clenched her phone under the desk. She had seen this pattern too many times. Every time Jamal spoke up, Mr. Harris found a way to silence him. Not today, she thought, hitting the record button. Jamal tried to continue his presentation. He spoke about Dr. King, about Rosa Parks, about equality still being a dream in progress. But every few sentences, Mr. Harris interrupted, correcting minor grammar, mocking his pronunciation, even questioning if Jamal really understood what he was talking about. Then came the final blow. "All right, enough," Mr. Harris snapped, walking to the board. "This is not your personal opinion column. Let's show the class how real research looks." He grabbed the marker and began erasing Jamal's writing. The careful notes, the quotes, the timeline, all gone in seconds. Replacing it with his own neat handwriting, he said loudly, "See, class? This is how it's done when you actually learn instead of pretend." Jamal just stood there, silent. His hands trembled, not with fear, but anger. The humiliation was public, deliberate, and cruel. One student whispered, "That's messed up." Another muttered, "He didn't deserve that," but no one spoke up. The air felt thick, like guilt and shame had taken form. When Mr. Harris finally turned back, he smirked. "You can sit down now, Jamal. Maybe next time you'll try something within your level." Jamal walked back slowly, each step echoing in his chest. His seat felt miles away. He could feel every eye on him. Pity, discomfort, silence. He stared at his desk, his reflection faintly visible in the polished wood. Maya leaned closer and whispered, "I recorded everything." He didn't respond. He couldn't. His pride was shattered, and words felt useless. Mr. Harris continued teaching as if nothing had happened. He flipped through the textbook, lecturing about fairness and education standards, his voice dripping with irony, but fate had already shifted. Outside the classroom, unseen by him, Principal Carter had started her routine hallway walk. She stopped near the door, hearing the faint echo of laughter and a tone that didn't sound like learning. Inside, Jamal stared at his erased work one last time. His heart burned, not for revenge, but for justice. He didn't know it yet, but that moment, that humiliation, was about to spark something far bigger than a grade or a lecture. It would expose the truth, shake the school, and prove that silence could be broken, even in the most unexpected way. The bell rang, and as students packed their bags, Mr. Harris straightened his tie, pretending nothing had happened. But Maya stayed back, phone clutched tight. She whispered to Jamal, "Just wait. He's not getting away with this." And at that exact moment, the classroom door opened, and Principal Carter stepped in. The story, however, had only just begun. The door creaked open, and the atmosphere atmosphere inside room 104 shifted instantly. Conversations froze, and even the ticking clock seemed to hesitate. Principal Carter, tall, composed, and known for her no-nonsense approach, stood in the doorway. Her calm gaze swept across the room before landing on Jamal, who sat stiffly in his chair, his presentation half erased from the board. "Good morning, Mr. Harris," she said, her tone polite but cool. "May I have a word?" Mr. Harris adjusted his tie, a nervous twitch flickering across his face. "Of course, Principal Carter. We were just finishing a student presentation." "I can see that," she replied, stepping inside, her heels echoing against the linoleum floor. She looked at the board, the half-erased timeline of the civil rights movement, the faint smudge of Jamal's handwriting beneath Harris's bold corrections, and something in her expression hardened. Jamal looked up briefly, unsure whether to feel relief or fear. Principal Carter had always been fair, but she didn't tolerate classroom disruptions. Would she side with the teacher or see the truth? "Jamal," she said softly, turning to him, "I'd like to hear about your project. You were presenting, right?" Mr. Harris immediately interjected, his voice stiff. "Actually, I had to stop him, ma'am. His information was questionable. Not appropriate for this level." Carter raised an eyebrow. Questionable or challenging? The room fell silent again. Harris opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, Maya spoke up from the back. Her voice was shaky but determined. "Ma'am, with respect, he didn't do anything wrong. Mr. Harris," he kept interrupting Jamal. He wouldn't let him finish. A hush swept through the class. Mr. Harris turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. "Maya, that's quite enough." But Principal Carter held up her hand. "Let her speak." Maya's fingers trembled as she unlocked her phone. "I recorded part of it. I just thought someone should see." The teacher's confidence faltered. His posture stiffened, color draining from his face. "You recorded my classroom without permission?" he snapped. Principal Carter took the phone, her expression unreadable. "Let's see what's so serious that a student felt she needed to record." The class sat in total silence. The only sound was the faint audio playing from Maya's phone, Mr. Harris's voice, sharp and condescending. "Too sophisticated for you. Let's show the class how real research looks. Maybe next time you'll try something within your level." Each sentence echoed in the still room like a strike of thunder. When the recording ended, the silence was deafening. Even the air felt heavier. Principal Carter's jaw tightened. She turned to Mr. Harris. "You said this student's information was questionable. I'd say your conduct was." Mr. Harris stammered. "Ma'am, I was only maintaining classroom standards. Some of these students, Carter repeated sharply. "Mr. Harris, you just humiliated one of our top-performing students, on camera, and erased his work. Do you understand how serious this is?" Jamal blinked. "Top performing?" He didn't even know she knew who he was. "Jamal," she continued, her tone softening, "I've read your past essays. You're one of the few students who think critically beyond the curriculum. What you did here, this presentation, was insightful." The room seemed to exhale. For the first time, Jamal lifted his head fully, meeting her gaze. There was kindness there, but also fury aimed at the injustice she'd just witnessed. She turned back to Harris. "I want you to meet me in my office after class, immediately." He opened his mouth, but the words didn't come. His authority, once absolute, now looked paper-thin under the principal's gaze. When she left the room, the door clicked softly, but the silence that followed was loud. Every student looked at Jamal not with pity, but respect. He had become something he never wanted to be, a symbol of courage in the face of humiliation. Mr. Harris avoided his eyes for the rest of the class. His voice trembled slightly as he went through the next lesson, reading directly from the book, avoiding any improvisation. His once commanding tone was gone, replaced by quiet anxiety. After the bell rang, students lingered longer than usual. A few of them, even the ones who'd laughed earlier, walked up to Jamal. "Hey man, that was messed up what he did. You didn't deserve that. You handled it better than I could have. Respect, bro." He nodded, still processing everything, but Maya smiled proudly. "Told you he wouldn't get away with it." In the hallway, whispers had already begun spreading. The video, the confrontation, the principal's reaction. By lunchtime, it had gone viral within the school's private student chat group. The title read, "Teacher crosses the line. Watch what happens next." That evening, the principal's office glowed with the setting sun. Mr. Harris sat across from Carter, visibly sweating. "I've given 20 years to this school," he began, voice desperate. "One mistake shouldn't—" "Mr. Harris," she interrupted calmly, "this wasn't one mistake. I've received multiple complaints about your attitude toward certain students. This video only confirms what's been whispered for too long." He swallowed hard. "So what now?" "You're suspended pending investigation," she said firmly, "and depending on the review board, your teaching license may be in question." His shoulders slumped. For once, there was no arrogance, just quiet defeat. As he left, Carter looked out the window toward the courtyard, where Jamal sat under a tree, Maya beside him, both sharing quiet laughter. She allowed herself a small smile. Some lessons, she thought, didn't come from textbooks. That night, Jamal got a call, not from school, but from a local news reporter who'd seen the viral clip. They wanted to interview him about his experience and his views on equality in education. He hesitated, nervous, but then remembered the look on Harris's face when the truth came out and how it felt to finally be heard. "Yeah," he said into the phone. "I'll do it." Because now, the story wasn't just his. It was a voice for every student who'd ever been silenced. A week later, Ridgewood High was no longer the same. The once ordinary school now buzzed with murmurs, cameras, and curiosity. The story of what had happened in room 104 had spread far beyond the campus, across town, across social media, even catching the attention of local news outlets. The headline read, "Black Students' Courage Exposes Classroom Discrimination. Principal Takes Action." At first, Jamal didn't know how to handle it. He hadn't wanted fame, he'd only wanted fairness. But now, reporters waited outside the school gates. Students whispered his name in the halls, and teachers watched him differently, some with respect, others with quiet discomfort. One afternoon, as he walked to his locker, Principal Carter called out, "Jamal, can I see you for a moment?" He followed her into her office, where the walls were lined with student awards and framed quotes about leadership. The air smelled faintly of coffee and determination. "I've been talking with the school board," she began, folding her hands on the desk. "They were impressed by how you handled yourself, calm, composed, and articulate. They've asked me to invite you to speak at next week's Diversity in Education Assembly." Jamal's eyes widened. "Me? Speak like in front of the whole school?" She smiled. "Not just the school. The district superintendent will be there. It's your story, Jamal, and stories like yours can make people think, make people change." He hesitated. The idea of standing on that stage, the same stage where awards were handed out and rules announced, felt surreal. But deep down, he knew this was bigger than him now. "I'll do it," he said quietly. The gymnasium was packed. Rows of students filled the bleachers, their chatter echoing off the walls. Teachers sat in the front, including a few who avoided eye contact with Jamal. Cameras from the local station lined the back wall. When Principal Carter stepped up to the microphone, her voice carried authority and warmth. "Today," she said, "we're here to talk about respect, equality, and courage, not just as words, but as actions, and we're honored to hear from one of our own students who reminded us of that." She gestured toward Jamal. Applause rippled through the gym, hesitant at first, then stronger. Jamal walked up to the stage, the microphone gleaming under the lights. He could see faces everywhere, his classmates, teachers, even janitors pausing at the doorway. He took a deep breath. "When I gave my presentation last week," he began, "I didn't expect to make headlines. I just wanted to share what I learned about equality, how people before us fought to be heard, to be seen." He paused, scanning the crowd. "But sometimes the fight isn't just in history books. It's right here in our classrooms, in how we treat each other." The audience was silent. Every word carried weight, not rehearsed, not polished, but real. "I was humiliated," Jamal said. "I was told I wasn't smart enough to understand my own project. But the truth is, none of us should have to prove our worth because of who we are. Respect shouldn't be earned by skin color, it should be automatic, like breathing." A girl in the second row wiped a tear. A teacher shifted uncomfortably. He continued, "But I also learned something important. When people stand up, like my friend Maya did, change happens. Silence helps no one. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just passing record when your hands are shaking." Laughter mixed with applause. Even the superintendent nodded, visibly moved. When Jamal finished, the entire gym erupted in a standing ovation. Students clapped, cheered, and whistled. Some shouted his name. Even Principal Carter dabbed at her eyes, proud and emotional. But one seat near the back stood out, empty, Mr. Harris's. Mr. Harris returned quietly after a disciplinary review. His arrogance was gone, replaced by something unfamiliar, humility. He asked to see Jamal privately. When Jamal entered the classroom, Harris stood by the window, his hands clasped tightly. "Jamal," he began, his voice lower than usual, "I owe you an apology." Jamal didn't say anything. He just waited. "I was wrong," Harris admitted. "There's no excuse for how I treated you. I thought I was maintaining control of my class, but I realize now I was losing something much more important. Respect." The words hung heavy in the air. Jamal nodded slowly. "I appreciate that, sir." Harris sighed, the weight of shame pressing on him. "If you're still willing, I'd like you to continue that project. The civil rights one. You have the classroom for it, all period. Teach me something this time." Jamal smiled faintly. "I think I can do that." And so, for one powerful hour, the student taught the teacher. Harris listened, really listened, as Jamal spoke about unity, history, and the courage to see people for who they truly are. Months later, Ridgewood High introduced a new elective course, Social Awareness and Equality Studies. It was inspired by Jamal's presentation, and he was invited as a guest speaker for its first session. Maya, now editor of the school newspaper, wrote an article titled, "How One Voice Changed the Lesson Plan." It was shared thousands of times online. As for Principal Carter, she proudly told Jamal's story at a state educators conference, ending with one quote from him that everyone remembered. "Education isn't just about what we learn, it's about what we unlearn." That day, Jamal realized the truth. Revenge fades, but change lasts. He hadn't destroyed anyone. He had rebuilt something better. His dignity, his story, and his courage had become a lesson that would echo long after graduation. Standing outside the school one evening, watching the sunset over the field, he smiled. He finally understood. The most powerful way to fight hate is to turn it into light.